Hey everybody! Today we are visiting the Poplar Tent Presbyterian Church Cemetery in Concord, North Carolina, which is just outside of Mecklenburg County. We are here to visit the gravesite of Reverend Hezekiah James Balch, who was the very first minister that this church ever had and also one of the signers of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence in 1775. Hezekiah James Balch was born in 1745 at Deer Creek in Hartford County, Maryland, the son of James and Anne Goodwin Balch. His parents moved the family from Maryland to Mecklenburg County around the year 1751 when Hezekiah was about 5 or 6 years old. Balch attended Nassau Hall, which is today Princeton University, and graduated in 1766. In the same graduating class as several other signers of the Mecklenburg Declaration, Rate Still Avery, Ephraim Brevard, and David Reese. Hezekiah Balch, his brothers, and their cousins all became ministers and reverends in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. The Donegal Presbytery in Pennsylvania licensed Balch to preach and sent him as a missionary to Virginia and North Carolina in 1768. Balch served as pastor of 2 congregations and conducted a school inside his own home. He was a member of the Board of Trustees at Queens College in Charlotte, which was chartered in 1771. Balch married a woman named Martha, and together they had 2 children. In 1769, Balch purchased 88 acres of land in North Carolina near the present-day town of Concord and built a home for his family. His land is the site of the present-day Stonewall Jackson Training School, which Michael and I visited to urban explore in our videos last fall during spooky season. Balch was called to the Poplar Tent and Rocky River Presbyterian churches in modern-day Cabarrus County in June of 1769. He was censured at the time for having been married by a Church of England minister, but he became a part-time minister at both churches, as neither one had a full-time minister. He served in these roles at these churches from 1769 until his death in 1776. Reverend Balch was a strong minister and also an active supporter of the revolutionary movement that was catching hold in Mecklenburg County in the early 1770s, and both of his churches were focal points of revolutionary fervor with his support. He was a member of the Committee of 3 who drew up the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence of 1775 and was also one of the first signers. The other 2 members of the committee were Dr. Ephraim Brevard, his old classmate from Nassau Hall, and William Kennan. Ephraim Brevard is generally given credit for being the author of the Declaration, but many scholars agree that the author was probably actually Reverend Balch. It is likely that Reverend Balch had actually written the Declaration, but as his handwriting left much to be desired, Dr. Brevard recopied it all over again. Hezekiah Balch was also a member of the Mecklenburg Resolves Convention of May 31, 1775. He signed the resolves and served as a captain of a Maryland company for 4 years in the Continental Army in the subsequent American Revolutionary War. If you watched my video about the Cabarrus County Black Boys, many of those young teenagers were members of Reverend Balch's 2 church congregations and were heavily influenced by his patriotic revolutionary spirit. Unfortunately, Hezekiah James Balch did not live long after he signed the Mecklenburg Declaration. In early January of 1776, He and his wife sold their 88-acre plantation, and it is suspected that perhaps the plantation was sold because he may have been ill and anticipating his own death. Balch probably died early in the year 1776, and he left no will. The Mecklenburg County Court Minutes of June 1777 note the appointment of his wife and 2 other members of his family to administer his estate. He was buried here in the Poplar Tent Church Cemetery in Concord, North Carolina. The exact date of Balch's death has been questioned, and he has been confused with 2 other Presbyterian ministers named Reverend Balch, who served in both North Carolina and in Tennessee, one of which was his own brother, whose first name is James. Reverend Balch's gravesite was left unmarked until 1847, when funds were raised to erect a monument. A local resident who had been present at Balch's funeral pointed out the approximate location of his gravesite. Balch is not buried with his widow, who went on to marry a man named George Marlin McWhorter. McWhorter was one of Hezekiah's students and had assisted her with the school they were running. The McWhorters left the area and moved to Tennessee. The engraving on this tombstone reads, "Beneath this marble repose the mortal remains of Reverend Hezekiah James Balch, first pastor of Poplar Tent Congregation and one of the original members of Orange Presbytery. He was distinguished as one of the committee of 3 who prepared the immortal document, the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, and his eloquence the more effectual from his acquired wisdom, purity of motive, and dignity of character, contributed much to the unanimous adoption of that instrument on the 20th day of May, 1775. He is resting here in good company, as 1 or perhaps even 2 other signers of the Mecklenburg Declaration are also buried in this cemetery. Benjamin Patton lies right beside him, and David Reese may possibly be buried here also."